Thanks, everybody. First of all, a big thanks to the Adelaide Entertainment Centre and the Office for Recreation and Sport of South Australia. Tonight, the attendance was 8,652 people for a sellout here at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre, and the gate was $1.4 million Australian. The bonuses, Fight of the Night goes to Kai Kara France and Garcia, with the performance bonuses going to Shogun and Sadiq. Any questions?
Yeah, Dave, talk to us about Adelaide just as a market. I mean, it's not necessarily the biggest town. A lot of people think of Melbourne and Sydney when they think of Australia, but the UFC keeps coming back here. Just talk to us about sort of what it means to the UFC as a market. Yeah, I
mean, Adelaide's going to continue to be in the rotation. We are going to come to Australia and New Zealand 2-3 times a year. We want to be able to spread, the live events out across all the major metropolitan areas of the country. Adelaide's now had 2 very successful events. I think this one had slightly more attendance than last time. We sold out today. Every event that we did this week, whether it was the fighter appearances during the tough finale yesterday, the open workout, very well attended. We'll continue to come back to Adelaide. Adelaide and Perth this year were both very successful. Coming to Melbourne in February, looking forward to that. It's going to be a huge card. It's a pay-per-view. We announced Anderson Silva tonight. In terms of geographic distribution, we've now started to be able to hit all areas of the country. So it's pretty important to us, and Adelaide's going to continue to be in the mix.
I was going to say, when you look at sort of always expanding and growing the Aussie market, how tough is a night like tonight where a lot of the Aussie favourites kind of didn't have the greatest night in the office? Guys like Tyson, Mike Hunt, Tai Tuivasa, and Jake Matthews.
Yeah, these things happen. You win some, you lose some. Look at most of the great champs have had minor setbacks in their careers. The nice thing is, look at Jake. I think Jake's 24 maybe. Ty's young, Tyson's young. Mark's obviously on his way out. Those guys are going to have long, very fruitful careers. So it's the type of thing where you learn from this type of situation and you move on. And next time it's going to be a better outing.
Can you just confirm, was there any contract offers to Mark sort of on his way out, any kind of negotiations or talks about him potentially staying in the UFC?
Yeah, that's a bit out of my territory. I know he and Dana have had discussions about that. I'm just not sure what Mark wants to do with his career. I think he's probably at a bit of an inflection point, making a decision on what's the next stage. I think he's early 40s. He's done everything. He's accomplished a lot in his career in a bunch of different promotions, geographically, where he's fought. I'm not sure what the next step is. I'm not sure if it didn't sound like he did either, so we'll see.
With this press conference tomorrow for UFC 234, you got Rob Whittaker, you got Israel Adesanya, you got Kelvin Gastelum.
Yep.
As far as Anderson Silva, we heard that maybe the UFC was trying to get him a visa to come down. Can you just give us
he won't be coming, unfortunately. We're really hoping to get him there. We tried pretty exhaustively to make it happen. This press conference came together very quickly. Sometimes you need a bit more time. Would have been great, but it's no problem. I think we feel very fortunate having the main event that we've got. You saw the type of reception that Robbie got when he was put on screen tonight, which is great. I think it's pretty special having Anderson on the card, and there's a great narrative. There's a great storyline between he and Izzy. And Anderson's always talked about wanting to fight himself at some point in his career, and maybe he gets that now. I don't know, but I think Melbourne, it's going to be, it's the second pay-per-view of 2019, and even the rumblings this week as we've been going through and having our various events, people are excited for Melbourne already, and that's it's a nice feeling.
With Rob winning GQ Sportsperson of the Year, what do you think that does as far as growth, sort of having a really, really mainstream, transcendent outlet, I guess, accepting MMA so openly?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's a nice advancement. I sort of feel like every year there's new territories we're able to break into. Our team in Vegas does an excellent job, and this is one of those things where, this had nothing to do with the Endeavor world, but, being in the Endeavor family gives us a lot of outlets like this. It's a very big accomplishment for him. It was nice that Dana was able to come down. And I think that shows how Rob is regarded within our organization, and what Dana feels about Rob. Dana doesn't do big trips like that, and he came down to help present the award. So It's great. I mean, to answer your question pretty bluntly, it's pretty special for us. We are in constant education mode, and in various areas around the world, we're in different stages of that education. There's still a lot of education that needs to be done in Australia, I think, and that's no disservice to the fans that are here. It's more. There's so many codes and so many very fanatical sports fans, and we've got a lot of clutter to break through. Maybe clutter is the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. You've got footy, you've got rugby, you've got tennis, you've got golf, you've got swimming, you've got a long list of sports that are very important to Australians. We're just on the cusp of really breaking out, I feel, and that type of thing certainly helps.
And just sort of staying on UFC 234 with both Robert Whittaker and Izzy having very, very strong roots in New Zealand, do you think that kind of means that it's likely that there'll be another New Zealand card around the corner, possibly even a pay-per-view rather than a fight night with both Rob and Izzy kind of pushing for?
It's very possible. Yeah, I mean, the last couple fights in Auckland have been great. The Tuna fight was a big night for us because it was the first time, and then obviously when Mark beat Derek Lewis, it felt like the roof was going to fall off the Spark Arena. So we'll be back there at some point. We are going into a different chapter, I think, of our company's growth right now, leading into 2019 and the new ESPN deal for the U.S. And we're just working on our scheduling now, so we don't have a lot of transparency into what's going to happen in Q3, Q4, other than we know when our pay-per-view dates are. But I think as the beginning part of the year unravels and we see what actually happens in Melbourne, then I think that's going to lead us to make some decisions for the second part of the year.
Like the Shanghai Performance Institute, is that going to reach into fighters down here in New Zealand, and how much of a role will that play in the development of these younger fighters that you're getting on your board?
Huge importance, yeah. I mean, it's a very Chinese sort of centric initiative in that it's in Shanghai. We've been very vocal about trying to use the Performance Institute not only to create live content and good original programming that can be distributed and can be leveraged by our local broadcast partners, because that's sort of what it's about. Very vocal about us being able to find the next big successful, let's just say, Asian athlete versus a Chinese athlete. I know there seems to be a huge opportunity for us in China, but the real reality is we want to focus on building the entire region. What does that mean for Australia? I mean, the Performance Institute is really an Asia-Pac facility, and we will be very active in inviting and making sure that any contracted UFC fighter, gets access to that facility. And you see it now in Las Vegas, right? We've got fighters, from all around the world. Francis Ngannou's he's part of the furniture now. Claudia Gadelha is there all the time. We have Aussies and Canadians and Europeans roll through there all the time. It's going to be an unbelievable facility that is, we really feel is going to make a huge impact in the sports world. And it's not going to be exclusive to Chinese fighters.
It's a pretty massive day for Australian MMA. I mean, this is the first time that it's been on free-to-air TV, which, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Have you had any results, any feedback on the numbers and all that sort of thing so far?
Not yet. We spoke to the Channel 10 guys earlier this evening. They're going to get back to us in the next couple of days. It's a different angle, right? I think if you are sort of a casual sports fan, or if you're a sports fan but you're not really into UFC yet, and you can get access to it free to air, especially how low the penetration rate of pay TV houses are in this country. This is big. I mean, it's an opportunity for us to connect with a whole new fan base, and I think it's going to be part of the strategy moving forward. We just want to make sure we've got the right way to promote it and the right selection of content, like the right portfolio of live events to air. So I think more on that in the next few weeks.
You've obviously got Melbourne coming up, but do you see any other pay-per-views in the Asia-Pacific region coming up anytime soon?
I mean, if it works in New Zealand, then it works. It's a bit different if we are, in say Shanghai or Singapore, where it's kind of 5 or 6 hours behind. Our pay-per-views, as you know, are always going to be broadcast at 10 p.m. Eastern in the United States. So it works here. It's kind of like, watching Sunday football if you're in the U.S., right? You get together with your mates in the afternoon and you sit down and you watch sports. You watch UFC, you watch football. Early in the morning doesn't really make sense to have a pay-per-view, I don't think. But it doesn't mean that we won't be able to have localized events. Heading into next year, one of the defining characteristics of our new deal in the U.S. with ESPN is the fact that we've got these off-prime events. So we've got the ability to have off-prime events in the U.S., which are primetime events in other regions. Principally Europe and Asia and allow us to have the primetime events in those regions, which we haven't really been able to do before. We've had the casual events, from one event to the next, Manchester, the big stadium event when we were in Stockholm. Those events were middle of the night. Now we can have those events in prime time, which really helps us build local regions.
What is the situation with broadcast agreements here in Australia next year? Has it changed at all?
We are in the works. Our broadcast agreement, the current broadcast agreement ends at the end of this year, and we've had some very productive discussions with several parties. We should have more information to share in the next couple of weeks.
And Mark and Ty both had traditional walkouts to the octagon today. Can you tell us how they came about?
I mean, those walkouts were initiated by those guys, as you could tell. I think they approached us with a concept, and Dana seemed to be on side with it. So it was nice. It was a good touch. I mean, there's nothing like the Haka in sports. I think it's one of the best non-kind of live sporting events in live sport. And seeing the Haka in international rugby is one of the best things. And so I looked around to a few of our colleagues here, and people had goosebumps. It was pretty cool.
And Kai Kara-France got the Fight of the Night performance.
Yes.
So the flyweight event was a pretty good showing this week. Is there any news on the flyweight division?
Not yet. No, nothing to share right now.
How frustrating was it, given that there was so much other combat sports events happening this weekend with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, and then Monday in Horn, and then yesterday with UFC?
Yeah.
Did that impact at all the reception you got from the event, or any of?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know any viewership stats for the United States or Canada or Europe, for that matter, right now. Our view generally with combat sports is the more combat sports that are on, the better it is for the UFC. So for us, it's really not a zero-sum game, right? Our advantage is not to the detriment of another combat sport. If more people are migrating or just expanding the sports that they watch, then it's beneficial to us. There was no real direct competition unless you were buying the pay-per-view for Fury and Wilder. I think that actually ended in a draw.
Yeah. Split draw.
A split draw, which is a bit odd, but we stand by that position. We want amateur MMA to flourish. We want professional MMA, especially in the local parts, to be able to flourish. I mean, there's got to be this pathway to excellence to make sure that the crop of young fighters that excel and go step by step up to the UFC is a healthy one. And you saw that today you mentioned Kai Kara-France's fight. It was awesome.
A lot of the guys on this card expressed interest in getting booked on the Melbourne card.
Yeah.
And that's
quick though. It's quick turnaround.
Yeah. Is that something that you guys will attempt to get all the Aussies back in?
Yeah, I think Dana and Sean and Mick are, they're going through that right now. I mean, obviously there's been 2 fights booked. I don't think anything else is imminent. But I'm sure coming out of this fight, a lot of the people who competed on this card will want to. I mean, it's good. It's a big deal. Volkanovski's fighting Chad Mendes at the end of the year, and that's going to be a complete barn burner. So that would be too quick for those guys to turn around. So I think if there are guys here that competed well and they can recover and they're not under medical suspension, then it would definitely be considered. I mean, it's what we try to do, right? We try to balance having some really key local guys with the international stars that can treat the fan base that gets to see the local guys more often. But you need to have the energy and you need to be able to sell tickets and all that type of stuff. So it's got to be that balance.
Can you talk about Jimmy Crute's performance? I mean, debut, it's amazing. I've been following him all on the local scene and see him in there and do what he did today. What about from your perspective?
I mean, from my perspective, I was sitting with Mick Maynard and he was pretty impressed. He knows a lot more about the intricacies of the sport than I do, and he was really impressed. I think it was kind of a bit of a seesaw, back and forth type of fight, but he's strong, man. The guy's a beast.
Is it difficult trying to groom people in the light heavyweight and heavyweight divisions, given that those divisions perhaps don't have the same depth in some of the lighter weight classes? And you have someone like Tai Tuivasa who's very charismatic and is perhaps, he's only been with the company a year and he's already fighting, a former champion in a main event slot. Is that difficult trying to manage the career of those young guys and not putting them on the fast track too early to the point where perhaps he wasn't ready for tonight?
I wouldn't say it's difficult. I think it requires you to be very thoughtful about each step of these guys' careers. But in some respects, it's tough to hold guys back when there's certain fights that seem to make sense, and also our type of fight that the fans want to see. I mean, we also straddle a line between being pure sport and entertainment. We want to make sure that fans are getting a treat and have former heavyweight champion here, former light heavyweight champion, Hall of Famer, and Shogun here. It was a good card, a special card. I mean, you even look down and the Wilson Hayes and Ben Wynn fight was in the middle of the prelims, and then you had Okami. I mean, it was pretty deep. So it seemed like people were happy. It seemed like the arena was full early, and as always, it seemed like a really good time. So, all right, thanks very much. Appreciate the support.